Welcome back to our channel, where we uncover the most gripping true crime stories from around the world. Today, we're diving into the gripping tale of one of Australia's most infamous and successful bank robbers, Hakki Tim Atahan. Born in Turkey in 1949, Atahan emigrated to Australia in 1970 at the age of 21. Known to his friends and neighbours simply as Tim, he initially led a conventional life in Sydney's western suburbs. He ran a takeaway food shop and settled down with a wife and young daughter. However, beneath this facade of normalcy lay a compulsive gambling habit that soon dismantled both his business and his marriage. To make ends meet, Atahan turned to driving taxis, but he was discontented with what he saw as a mundane existence. Craving excitement and wealth, he ventured into the perilous world of armed robbery. The 1980s were a time when bank heists were surprisingly common in Australia, with about 8 occurring daily. Between March 1983 and January 1984, Atahan decided to claim his share of the loot. Between March 1983 and January 1984, Hakki Tim Atahan committed an estimated 17 bank heists, amassing around 200,000 Australian dollars. This ill-gotten wealth financed a lavish lifestyle, complete with overseas vacations, pricey jewellery, and a high-end apartment with stunning harbour views in Manly, a posh suburb north of Sydney. Despite his luxurious living, Atahan's gambling addiction continued to escalate, driving his need for more cash and prompting him to execute more heists. In a brazen move, he is believed to have robbed the same bank in Manly twice in one day. However, Atahan's criminal streak took a dramatic turn on Tuesday, January 31st, 1984. This fateful day marked his third heist attempt. On that scorching January morning, he travelled from Manly to the city, where he successfully robbed 2 banks on Macquarie Place, netting over 17,000 Australian dollars. Despite already having a significant haul, Atahan's greed pushed him to continue. Known for his skill in evading capture, he felt invincible, driven by his belief that no cop could ever take him alive. His audacity and ruthlessness were evident in his actions as he relentlessly pursued his criminal endeavours. At approximately 10:30 a.m, Atahan stormed his third bank of the day, the Commonwealth Bank on George Street, Sydney. He fired a shot into the air, demanding, "Give me all the 50s," as glass shattered around him. The bank manager, Graham Stewart, immediately raised the alarm upon hearing the commotion. Given the recent surge in bank robberies, the police were on high alert and responded swiftly. By the time Atahan had collected around 40,000 Australian dollars, the bank was surrounded by heavily armed tactical police. Both the Tactical Response Group and a Special Weapons and Operations section had established a perimeter, effectively trapping him inside. A negotiator was called in to communicate with Atahan. During the tense negotiations, Atahan fired 2 warning shots and released all the bank's customers. Shortly after, he also released 4 female bank staff members, but kept 5 male staff members as hostages. Despite the high tension, no one had been harmed at this point. Atahan even turned to the bank manager, Graham Stewart, and joked, "This is just like the movies, isn't it?" As negotiations dragged on, the situation remained fraught with danger. Atahan demanded a getaway car and a helicopter, but these demands were not met. After 2.5 hours of tense negotiations, he decided to take control of the situation. He emerged from the bank, flanked by the 5 hostages who were forced to link arms, creating a human shield around him. Holding his .32 pistol to the bank manager's head, this tactic prevented police marksmen from getting a clear shot. Police rushed to evacuate the surrounding area as people fled their cars, providing Atahan with an opportunity for the next phase of his escape. The hostage group, surrounded by armed officers, came across a blue Datsun sedan abandoned with the keys in the ignition. Atahan forced the hostages into the car, with Graham Stewart at the wheel, holding him at gunpoint. This led to a dramatic pursuit involving 39 police cars, a police helicopter, and 4 water police launches. Contrary to popular movie scenarios, this real-life chase was fraught with danger and tension. The pursuit was a slow-speed affair, lasting several hours. After about 2 hours of driving, Atahan stopped in Queenscliff to pick up his 23-year-old girlfriend Sharon Oliver. To make room for her in the car, he released one of the hostages. The low-speed chase then continued through Sydney's central business district to Bondi, across the Sydney Harbour Bridge and down Military Road to Manly. Throughout the chase, details were broadcast live on television and radio. The situation took a bizarre turn as onlookers, seemingly oblivious to the danger the hostages were in, began waving and cheering as the car passed by. People lined the streets, running out of shops and houses to catch a glimpse of the scene, ignoring the fact that hostages were being held at gunpoint inside the vehicle. The serious police chase soon took on a carnival-like atmosphere. As the pursuit neared the Spit Bridge, 6 miles north of Sydney, police made the critical decision to raise the bridge to halt Atahan's progress. Unable to move forward, Atahan ordered Stewart to turn the car around and attempt to break through the police blockade, but this plan quickly failed as the car was swiftly surrounded. Police urged Atahan to surrender, assuring him that no one intended to harm him. His response was a furious outburst. "What do you think I am, a goddamn idiot?" He began waving his gun out of the car window, hurling abuse at everyone around, appearing increasingly unstable. Detective Constable Canellis and Senior Detective Pepper approached the vehicle. Canellis crouched by the window, trying to negotiate with the agitated Atahan. As they reached the side of the car, Detective Constable Canellis lowered himself towards the window to negotiate with Atahan, who still had the gun pointed at Graham Stewart's head. Stewart later recalled the deafening shot as Atahan swiftly redirected his aim, shooting Canellis between the eyes at close range. The bullet struck Canellis on the bridge of his nose, causing him to collapse against his vehicle. In response, other officers opened fire. Detective Packer fired a shot that shattered the car window, passing between the hostages, through the headrest, and into Atahan's head. Another detective fired a round through the back window, also hitting Atahan, who died at the scene shortly after. The hostages and Sharon Oliver were quickly removed from the vehicle. Graham Stewart sustained a leg wound, while the others were sprayed with glass shards, but none sustained any major injuries. Sharon Oliver was cleared of any involvement in the day's events and did not face any charges. Detective Constable Canellis was rushed to the hospital, where it was discovered that the bullet had entered his skull through the bridge of his nose, travelled to the back of his skull, down his throat, and lodged under his collarbone. Miraculously, the bullet caused no major damage, and Canellis made a full recovery. At the inquest into the day's events, the actions of Dr. Hughes were highly praised. Dr. Hughes, who had experience treating gunshot wounds, offered his assistance to the police after being stopped near the bridge before the shooting. He witnessed Canellis approach Atahan's car and, after the shooting, saw Canellis bleeding heavily from the mouth and nose and struggling to breathe. Dr. Hughes positioned Canellis's head to prevent blood from entering his trachea and lungs, significantly aiding his survival. Had Dr. Hughes not been nearby at the time of the shooting, and if Canellis had been laid on his back during efforts to save him, he would have died at the scene. Thankfully, Canellis returned to work after just 4 months of recuperation and was later awarded for his bravery in bringing the lengthy hostage drama to an end. Years later, Canellis retired from the police force with the bullet still lodged in his shoulder. At the time of his death, Atahan had just $467 in his bank account. Sharon Oliver told police that during the car chase, Atahan tried to justify his actions, claiming he committed the crimes to provide for his estranged young daughter. However, most people dismissed this explanation, widely believing that his true motives were rooted in greed and an unrelenting gambling addiction. Additionally, the Q Crime channel offers numerous other captivating cases for you to explore. Don't forget to like, subscribe and turn on notifications to stay updated with Q Crime Story videos every day. Farewell for now, and we eagerly anticipate your presence in our future videos.